Hey y'all, it's your girl C2 and I got with me Benjamin Marcus. We just watched a huge shutout victory at Miami versus Ball State, 62-0. It was a game-setting record. A lot of records were set in this game. So we're gonna talk about it, but it's been a long day. The weather delays, I'm lost. I'm beat all weekend. There's been weather delays.
Yeah.
Even today, there were what, 3?
Yeah, I mean, a long day is kind of an understatement. I feel like we're running a marathon. I don't know what time it is. I don't really know where I am right now. It just the weather delay kind of put a 3-hour delay on this game.
Hours?
It felt like 3 hours. Was
Yeah,
it 3?
It did.
I think it was like 2 to 3 hour delay on the game just because of the lightning. You already know what it is in South Florida. There's going to be lightning delays. You were at a lightning delay last night?
Yes, lightning delay last night. Like I'm 0-2 against the weather, but I think it made it worse that they started to warm up. We came out game, and then they went back. They came back.
Yeah.
It was a lot of back and forth. I think that made it a lot worse than what it was.
Yeah, definitely. 3 times they came out and warmed up. Finally, the last time they were able to warm up and get this game started. But when it got started, man,
Yes.
the boys from Miami that had the U on their helmet took care of business. 62-0 was the score here, and like you were saying, it was a program record-setting day for the Hurricanes. The 62 points are the most points scored against an FBS opponent as far as the margin of victory is concerned.
That's really cool.
That's pretty huge for a Miami Hurricanes team that has an illustrious history. You know, this is a team that has 5 national championships, and the team that we saw today, the performance that we saw on this field, has never been done before.
I love to see it because it just shows how much depth and how much offensively. I mean, they have Cam Moore at 346 yards, 5 touchdowns. You know, he's just continued to have unbelievable games, but it just continues to show as well offensively all the receivers that he's able to get to, even the tight ends and them showing up as well. It just continues to show like offensively where we are and what we can do, and it's a little scary because to them it's still a lot of work that they have to do offensively. So
absolutely, 750 yards of total offense for this team. They did it in the air at first, and then later in the game, they did it on the ground with our boy A.J. Allen.
Yep.
You know, broke off some big runs, including a 56-yard touchdown run that got the crowd that was left very excited. But definitely, this team just kind of showed how explosive they are, explosive that they can be with the 750 yards. And one more stat I do want to hit you with is just that the 3 games that we've seen so far, 159 points. That's the most in program history for the first 3 games. So not only did they perform at a really high level today, but they've been doing it all season so far after 3 games. So really impressive show.
Very. Not to mention, Cam Moore is the first Miami quarterback in history to start off with 3 consecutive games over 300 yards. So kudos to him as well.
Yeah,
that's really good.
He's doing his thing, man. He's commanding this offense. He's really showing that there's just an abundance of players that can make plays. You know, today we saw Jacoby George get loose.
Over 100 yards today for Jacoby. He was able to get into the end zone as well. I mean, of course, they did spread the ball out to other receivers, but I mean, JG just showing his leadership skills and just him as a player this year, totally different mindset and just being a leader and stepping up. JG is just always that guy, very consistent, and I can see him, just his maturity this year and coming into play all throughout the last 3 games that I've watched him in person. Definitely a key player, and I'm excited to see for the rest of the season for JG.
Yeah, you were kind of waiting for this kind of breakout game from Jacoby George because Xavier Streplo has been doing his thing and really kind of been the best receiver so far in the first 2 games. But Jacoby George really kind of showed like, hey, I'm here too. He actually had a touchdown taken off the board, which I thought he wasn't out of bounds, but he was called out of bounds. that would have been a Sports Center top 10 play if that stood. Just
Talk
because
about
he broke tackles. I mean, he avoided tackles. He still was able to get a touchdown on his own, where he kind of followed his blockers and just kind of maneuvered his way over the goal line, which was impressive. But yeah, shout out to JG. Obviously, he's from the crib. Shout out to Plantation High School, which is also the high school of his receiving coach, Kevin Beard. So, you know, shout out to him really showing up today.
And the presser, he laughed about it, you know, when he was asked about that play. I feel like JG in the past, he would have still been upset about that play, but he talks about, you know, just having that mindset of the next play, which is what we need going for, especially for what Mario's trying to do this year. So that was really important. But speaking on the opposite side, 116 yards, passing yards from Ball State.
It's 115 total yards.
Yes,
they
total.
shut them boys down.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, like it was
only like 6 rushing yards.
Yeah, 6 rushing yards was impressive. I mean, like most of the game, it was either negative or like 1. I mean, they really kind of shut the running game completely down.
What does that say about the defensive line?
I mean, I just feel like this defensive line is really deep. Not only rushing the passer, but also stopping the run. Those guys in the middle. What was interesting to see today, though, was the fact that Simeon Barrow was inside and outside. I thought he was impressive with both positions, as well as Akeem Mesidor as well. Akeem Mesidor was lined up inside and outside. Once Ruben Bain comes back, you already know he's going to be inside and outside as well. So it was impressive to see them really shut down the run and pretty much shut down the pass as well. Your boy Tyler Barron had another really great game where
he caused a lot of plays.
Yeah, a lot of disruption. I think he had maybe 1.5 tackles for loss. He had a half sack, a couple of tackles, a few hurries, maybe some that he wasn't even recorded for. So he continues his hot streak as well.
Love that. I also do want to talk about, you know, just the defense in this goal. I mean, Mario was able to get so many guys in rotation.
Yeah.
The secondary played mostly. Talk about the secondary guys coming in and still playing up to par. I mean, they still kept them.
Yeah.
Shutout game.
Yeah, definitely. I thought just seeing Deani Hill on one side, and you saw OJ once again on the other side, and you saw DP playing in the nickel most of the game, was very kind of interesting to kind of see. But you also saw other defensive backs get in the game, like Jadias Richard. And of course, Meach Powell had another solid game. Jaden Harris was making tackles everywhere. But later in the game, you saw Marquise Williams. You saw also Saquon Patterson as well getting into the game. This is definitely a game where you saw the depth when it comes to the defensive backs, linebackers, and the defensive line. Cole McConaughey got in this game. Malik Bryant had a pretty decent game as well. Made some good tackles. One that could have gone for a pretty big distance. Bryant was able to make a tackle, kind of a shoestring ankle tackle to stop a big gain. So really impressed with him as well as the other guys inside.
Yeah, I think Mario said he had about 12, 14 defensive linemen, 7 linebackers, and that's a lot.
That's a lot.
That is a lot. And for them to perform the way they did, that just says, again, a lot about the depth that we have as a team.
Bobby Washington, I want to mention him too. He had a huge hit on a special teams play and then had another huge hit as well later in the game in the fourth quarter. So it really kind of shows you the depth of this team, because Bobby Washington will probably start somewhere else. And he's not getting as much playing time as, maybe that we thought he would be. But it really just kind of shows just how deep this team really is.
Right. I do want to say one of the negatives that I did take out of this game were the penalties. They had a lot to clean up on. They were 8 for 85 just on penalties alone. That's something they definitely have to clean up, especially going into USF next week. You can't go there making that many penalties, those many mistakes. You cannot do that next week.
Absolutely, especially the one penalty where it took a touchdown off of the board. Isaiah Horton had an amazing play on it was a great throw by Ward first, and then Horton was able to take it the distance, but unfortunately it was taken off the board because Markel Bell had a illegal hands to the face. It was clearly illegal hands to the face, but those are the type of penalties you don't want to see because those are actually taking points off the board. The one penalty that I didn't agree with, though, was the one on Wesley Bassane. You know, I thought the hit was like to the shoulder. You know, it wasn't like to the head.
Football.
They were like saying it was above the neck or something like that, which I thought was egregious. So that play in particular, I didn't think should have been called, but penalties definitely need to be cleaned up, especially on the road in a hostile environment that they'll face against USF.
And speaking of that, we are in Tampa next week at the USF. I mean, I've been hearing a lot of USF will definitely challenge. I know they gave Alabama a run for their money. Miami going to their home, playing them as aggressively as they have been playing. What do you think next week is going to look like for Miami?
Well, the one negative to me about the game was the lack of running game in the beginning of this game, in the first half, pretty much. You didn't really see Damian Martinez really get loose like you wanted him to get loose, and Mark Fletcher didn't really start getting enough carries or really kind of breaking loose until more in the second half or the beginning of the third quarter. So you kind of want to see the running game kind of get going. I didn't really see any holes really kind of open up where they could really get loose. So that needs to change because that's kind of part of the identity of this football team. They do want to pass the ball. Of course, they've got the Heisman candidate in Cam Ward who can throw it all over the field. But you want to establish a running game, especially on the road and especially against conference teams that you're about to face because, you know, it's going to be a step up in competition from here on out. So you want to be able to establish that running game so you can open up the passing game even more because, you know, there were some plays today where receivers were just wide open. And those gaps are going to start to close as the season goes on. So I kind of want to see the running game get going against USF because they're going to need it. That crowd's going to be really hyped up. They've got a really talented quarterback in Byron Brown, who is a dual threat type of guy who can get a defense fits. So that's really kind of what I want to see. Running game get going and contain Byron Brown.
I agree, especially with the holes opening up. I saw last game, it's really tight. Yeah. I mean, I feel like there could be more room for the running backs to get through those holes, but I mean, I know with Coach Maribel, that'll be something he'll definitely see once he watched the film and see what he can work on as far as opening up holes. And I do agree. I mean, the performance, if it wasn't for A.J. Allen with that 56 yards,
it would have been a lackluster effort on the ground, for sure.
He kind of made it look like they did something today, but honestly, the running today was not up to par of what I feel like that is needed for, especially for next week.
Absolutely, and part of the reason why it didn't look as good, at least for the second part of the game, was because of Ines Cooper went down with an injury. Cristobal said that he should be back next week for practice, but he was out of the game. Jalen Rivers also didn't play in this game, so I think that's part of the reason. But still, you know, you would hope that the depth of this offensive line really kind of holds up throughout the rest of the season. Because, like we said, they're doing great in pass protection, but just running the football is kind of the key to a lot of football games. So you kind of need that.
Absolutely. So we'll see what USF and what changes they'll make because we're getting deeper into the schedule. Soon we get some ACC play on there, so I'm excited to see like what's that play look like for Miami. That's some real play. I mean today shutout 62-0.
Can't ask for anything better.
I know, but it was just like one of those days, right? We got rain, we got delays. A lot of people came in early, but they also left early. Right. We had a little over 50,000. Yeah, I know. It's a long day for everybody, right? So it's just one of those days. But we were able to see some things, and I think that from last week, improving on the conversions. I think that it was improved on as far as third down conversions. Third down conversions.
Yeah, they were 7 for 11 on third down.
So, I mean, I think that as far as like working on that, as Cam said, that's something that he wanted to work on. He was able to do, Emery got in the game.
Emery, shout out to Emery Williams. Oh, that pass that Elijah offered was picture perfect. He went through his reads and just saw him on that wheel route. It was just a great play. Happy for him, just with the injury that he went through at Florida State, for him to come back finally in his first appearance of the season to throw a long touchdown pass like that. It was great to see.
I would love to see more throws like that from Emery. I feel like
clearly to me he's the number 2 quarterback.
That's what it's looking like. That's what it's looking like for me as well. I mean, last game he's got in for a bit, but Emery's looking like that number 2 guy right now.
Right.
I would like to see more throwing. So let's see, what Shannon has in his pocket to see. I mean, even Cam said he wants to see more throwing from Emery. So we'll see.
Yeah. I have to burn that red shirt.
Right.
That they were
Exactly.
planning on with him.
Exactly. So
we'll see.
we shall see. But with that being said, I mean, hopefully we'll be in Tampa.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll be in Tampa. We get some instant reactions for you guys and just let you guys in onto a day with us here at Miami covering. It's what time is it here? Almost midnight. The game started at 3:30.
Allegedly, it was supposed to start at 3:30.
Yeah, the game started at 5:55.
Yeah.
5:55.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's almost midnight. We're still here. Give you guys this instant reaction. We plan on doing this the entire season.
All season, baby.
All season. So I mean, guys, make sure you stay tuned in with us on Game Podcast. We're gonna be releasing some episodes for you guys. Follow me at C2 New Era C2 on Instagram, New Era C2 on Twitter, X.
Follow me on Twitter, X, Benjamin Rivals, Benjamin Report on IG.
Yep. We'll see you guys next week for another instant reaction. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you. Have a good night.
Yes.